I can look back into my life and look at some people that, I once may have considered friends, or maybe they never were friends, but they were antagonists in my life. But had they not been there, man, I would not be who I am today. So do you agree that it can not only people like Wayne who are so positive as influential to you, but also they can be the negative, Tom Brady's friends who are not friends to him, your brothers who are bullying you, or negative influence. Do you agree that that's just as powerful as the positive influence?
I think a firmly installed chip on the shoulder adds a lot of value to motivation. And this desire we have to prove comes from the wish to belong. We all want to belong. We all want people to like us. We all want to fit in. Because if that doesn't happen, our basic instinct of survival says, well, if I don't fit in and I don't belong, then maybe they're going to kill me. Or maybe I'll starve. Maybe I won't get a job. So it's really deep down guttural instinct is we want to belong.
In today's ultra-competitive business world, being a successful entrepreneur or business owner can be very challenging. Fortunately, contemporary times have blessed us with resources for tackling those challenges and getting us to success more quickly than we could have imagined. Welcome to The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs grow incredible companies. This podcast looks at the 5 keys to unlocking success as an entrepreneur. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason's mission is to use his gifts of teaching and leadership to help others get the results they want out of life. Join Jason every week and learn the keys to grow a truly successful business.
Well, welcome back to The Root of All Success. I'm the real Jason Duncan, and I am honored that you're joining us today for the show. I have got a fantastic guest for you today. And this is the guest that I got coming on today. His name is Rock Thomas. And this is just kind of a testament to how, if you play your network right, if you continue to expand your network and put yourself out there, you will end up meeting some amazing people. So I want to speak to you right now, just directly, you and me. You've got to get out of your bubble. You got to get out there and go to events. If somebody invites you to something, go to it. If you've got the opportunity to go somewhere, meet somebody, or get on a call or get on a Zoom, do it. Meeting people, expanding your network. Remember, your network is your net worth. And today's guest is an illustration of how my network expanded to a place to provide extreme value to you as listeners to this show. So let me talk a little bit about the show, then I'll introduce my guest for today. So number one, I do this show for you. So if there's anything that you're not hearing that you want to hear, just reach out to me. You can reach out to me through my website. You can either go to therootofallsuccess.com or therealjasonduncan.com, and you can find me right there on that site. And you can send me a message. I'll be happy to connect with you. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram at @therealjasonduncan. And thank you for following me on those social medias, but also thank you for subscribing. And, you hear the beginning of every podcast, the hosts are always saying, hey, please subscribe, please rate and review. Those are really important because the more ratings, reviews, and subscriptions we have and listeners that we have to the show, the more the show gets promoted on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher and all those different places. So we need you to do that, because if you like this show, more people can hear it when you go do those things. If you just listen to it and like it, that's fine. I'll keep producing the content, but no new people or less new people are going to find out about it because we don't have the subscribers and the ratings. So thank you for that. Right now, I've got all 5-star reviews, and that's because of you. Thank you for doing that sincerely from the bottom of my heart. All right, now let me introduce you to our guest today. His name is Rock Thomas. You've seen him on Goalcast. He's impacted over 100 million lives. And you're going to hear him talk about on the show how he's created over I think he says 3 trillion. I think he says trillion in the show, and then he has to correct himself as billion. $3 or $5 billion in net worth through his clients. He's the host of the top-rated Rock Your Money, Rock Your Life podcast. He's a best-selling author, a motivational speaker with over 30 years experience in personal development and coaching. He grew up in a small farm town in Montreal. He had bullies as brothers, brothers as bullies, that helped motivated him to become stronger and have good mental resilience and the ability to kind of persevere. And it prepared him for his success. He's the founder of the M1 Mastermind and the founder of the Whole Life Millionaire Mentor Group. And he has a really interesting perspective on this concept of being a whole life millionaire. And he's helped hundreds of people become what he refers to as whole life millionaires, who are wealthy not only financially, but in every area of their lives. He studied alongside Tony Robbins, Harv, Eker, Deepak Chopra, Carolyn Myss, John Gray, Deida, David Wolfe, Jack Canfield, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Stephen Covey. Those are names that you've probably heard before. And this guy, Rock Thomas, has studied alongside these people. He's ran and sold several very successful real estate franchises under the Remax brand. He currently owns several Keller Williams franchises, and he operates them passively as an exit without exiting person. So if you listen to me, you know that's what I teach: how to exit without exiting, live that exit lifestyle. Rock's going to talk about how he does that. He enjoys golfing, plant-based foods, and he does a little yoga. And as I said, he's founded those masterminds. We're going to talk at the end of the show today about his 10 rules of success. And I talk about the 5 keys of success on this show, but he's going to share at the very end of the show his top 10 rules of success that he writes about in the book, The Power of Your Identity and Your Epic Life Blueprint. So I want to welcome today the one and only Rock Thomas. Thank you for being here, Rock.
I'm looking forward to pitching and catching with you, Jason.
Well, I think one of the coolest things about being an entrepreneur is how we network with each other, and how our network is our net worth. And that net worth, as you teach, is not just finances, it's a whole life thing, which I know I'm really anxious to talk about, that whole life mentality that you've got about Millionaire, the whole life millionaire. But I don't remember exactly how I met, who I met, but led me to you. But I can kind of draw it back 2 or 3 chain links. There's a guy that's in one of your masterminds that I met that does marketing for me. And then I met the guy that does their marketing. It's just so, isn't it great? Entrepreneur networks are awesome. And listening to podcasts like yours and mine is a great way to expand that network. So again, humbled and honored that you're here today to talk. So let's start here. Let's do this. You're very successful. You've spent a decade, or several decades of impacting people's lives, over 100 million lives. But go back to the beginning. Tell me how you got started as an entrepreneur. Some people's stories go back to their childhood. Others didn't start till they were an adult. What was it for you? Where did it start?
In all honesty, Jason, I think it starts even before you're born, because my parents went through the war. And so they started to develop traits and rituals and habits and beliefs based on their experience of scarcity. And so when I grew up, that just continued. It was an extrapolation. I grew up on a farm, and there was never enough. There wasn't enough time. There wasn't enough money. There wasn't enough food. There wasn't enough tools to fix problems. There wasn't enough clients to ride our horses, to pay our bills. And so I became a problem solver at a very young age based on necessity. And I think that, I'm grateful for that, because that led to me scanning the territory, looking for ways to win, to fix things, to add value. And that's what entrepreneurs do. And so when you learn that at a young age, it becomes those 10,000 hours that you didn't even know you had. And so, I was your kid that I shoveled people's driveways, at a very young age, knocked on doors. I got used to not being affected by rejection, because it was either do that or starve. So it was a really easy equation. And so, I sold hot dogs and coffee to the people that came to have their kids ride at our farm. And I became very industrious with learning how to use a rock to hammer a nail when there was no hammer. So I'm very creative, very capable of solving problems. And so the ultimate confidence I think that an entrepreneur has is not knowing how to do it, but is knowing that you'll figure out how to do it with whatever's available. And so that's what's led me to be capable of building multiple companies.
Well, so the rock, using a rock as a hammer. Now, your name, you go by Rock. Is Rock your given name, or did that become because you use rocks to nail things?
It's a nickname. I have a Dutch name that is harder to pronounce. And so it became an easier name for people to use in North America, as my parents come from Holland.
Oh, okay. So where do you live now? Where do you hail from today?
So today I have several homes. I have a home in Montreal, Canada, where I grew up most of my life. And I have another place in Phoenix, Arizona. Before COVID, I like to travel a couple of months of the year to Asia and in a month to Europe, but I haven't done that the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all of us are suffering for that syndrome. We're all hoping that we can get back to normal. I don't want a new normal. I'm ready for the old normal to get back to us as soon as possible. So, all right. So so I love the nickname Rock, and your company's Rock Thomas International, right? RTI. And I've got a short aside here before I go into anything else, which is funny because my coaching company that I originally started was Results Through Integrity LLC, RTI. And so we call everything was RTI. Now I've since rebranded it to TRJD Enterprises. And there's a whole long story, which is this show's not about me, but about you. But I rebranded it. But every time I've talked about, hey, I'm going to be on RTI Monday Night Live, or I've got this thing with RTI, and my assistant's going, which one are you talking about? So, but I love the name. I love the name Rock. It's a great name. So tell me about your first business. So you shoveled snows, sold hot dogs as a kid. I get that, but I don't know in Canada if it's the same thing as the LLC in the United States. I don't know the Canadian business law, but when did you have your first LLC or your corporation? When did that happen? And what was it?
That happened late in life. My entire 20s was really driving taxis, modeling. I was a little bit in a movie, washing windows, anything that would make me a buck, because I grew up being indoctrinated by my father saying that you have to work hard in life. And so I sought all the jobs that were hard work. He didn't talk about being an entrepreneur. He didn't talk about getting, a formal education and letters behind your name. He just says, life is difficult. You got to work hard. So that's what I was attracted to. And then when he got sick with cancer in my late 20s, I was working at an airline, and I was, a flight attendant. So I had some travel. He was living in Australia at the time, and it gave me an opportunity to try to win him over and reconnect with him. And by the time I got back, I'd lost my job. I got divorced, and I had lost virtually everything because I took my eye off the ball. And that's when I went into real estate and got into sales. And I would say that, when you learn how to sell, you can sell anything. That's the ultimate security. At least it was for me. And real estate became the vehicle of my choice.
I love real estate. I've never held a real estate license. I remember going to real estate school in my 20s, thinking I wanted to be a realtor, and I didn't finish. But I love real estate. One of the companies I own is a real estate investment company, and so you, as an entrepreneur, really cut your teeth entrepreneurship and real estate. Do you agree with the statement that most realtors? Well, I'll dispense with the negative statements. Most realtors suck, but I would say that most realtors aren't entrepreneurial. Or what is your perspective as someone you ran and sold several successful 6 award-winning Remax franchises? You've got a Keller Williams Prestige franchise that you own now. Real estate's kind of your thing. Do you agree that most real estate agents and real estate people aren't entrepreneurial, or would you see it differently?
Yeah, well, let me give you a little bit of background. When I started, I was not a good agent. My first year, I sold one property because I didn't know what to do. I was used to working with 2x4s and goats. And, the relationship with people was not something I was really very, very good at. But I did have a mentor, Wayne Jordan, that took me under his wing. And that was really the first change in my life when I understood that if you're going to have success, you've got to find somebody that's done it before you and really pay attention. And so the next year I sold 32 homes, then 45, then 65, and then 99. And then he sold me the company. And so within about a 4-year period, I went from really broke, $30,000 in debt on my couch, I know it's cliche, to now running the most successful real estate company in the province of Quebec with 94 agents, most of them that were 20 years older than me, and the top dogs in the town. And when they announced that I was the owner, many of them came to me and said, "You better not fuck this up." And you better not make our checks bounce and stuff like that. So I built it up to 275, Jason, over a 4-year period. But to answer your question regarding realtors, about a third of them went bankrupt during the 10 years that I ran the office. So they're not entrepreneurial. What they are is, they don't want to be locked down. Most of them are ADD. They're people. So they like to go out, do open houses, meet strangers, show off a couple of homes, and make themselves a $6,000 or $10,000 commission.
Yeah.
But like in life, 3% of the population, are millionaires. About 3% of the population are incredibly fit. And probably about 5% of the population are actually happy in a relationship. 50% are divorced, 45% are in a relationship, but it's not really a great relationship. So the same thing in a real estate office. About 5% of the real estate agents in an office will be epic. They'll be, business people. They'll have a plan. They'll follow it. They'll be consistent. They'll use systems. But the rest of the people, hey, listen, you can sell 3 or 4 homes a year, Jason, and you can make more than most people are making in a year. And the last couple of years has been crazy. Down here in Phoenix, the luxury homes have gone up 25% in the last year. My realtor that just sold me this house, I think she made $150,000 commission. $150,000 commission, and she showed me 20 homes.
That's insane.
Right. Most people work a year or 2 to make that money. It was one property. And I buy like 1 or 2 properties a year from her. She could just work for me and take the rest of the year off, and she would make more than most people.
Well, I think the reason I asked that question, Rock, is because I know a lot of realtors, but I don't know a lot of really good entrepreneurially minded business building realtors. And again, I obviously you have experience in that industry that I do not have. I'm the guy on the outside looking in. The last 2 homes that I sold at FSBO, for sale by owner. I did myself, and I did a lease with option to purchase, and it worked out great for me. Now I'm in the process of listing and selling my current home, but due to this home is a much bigger home than I've ever owned before, and I need some assistance with it. I can't. This estate is not something I can just sell by myself. It'll be a little more difficult, but finding that right realtor to do that is really difficult from my seat. Because on one hand, I'm looking at this thinking, I'm not paying somebody $150,000 to sell this house. That's crazy. That's insane. And the other hand, it's like, well, I do need the help, but it's got to be a fair exchange. But what I admire about you is that you had that work ethic and that ability to come in and take that agency from, you were selling one house to owning it in just 3 or 4 years. That's stellar. So congrats on you. So let me ask you a couple other questions about your journey. So real estate's been the main thing, and you still own a Keller Williams franchise. Is that right?
Yeah, a couple of them. Mm-hmm.
So you got a couple of those, but the way my perception is of you and how I've been introduced to you and what I've read about you in the intro is that your main thing that you're doing is you're really investing in people on a daily basis through your mastermind, coaching, public speaking, authorship, et cetera. So what would you think your main thing is? Like, what do you spend your waking hours paying attention to and doing each day?
Yeah, great question. I mean, the way I operate my weeks typically is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday mornings are booked with appointments and meeting different teams. I have several different companies, medical clinics in LA. I've got a solar company here in Arizona. I've got my 2 real estate companies. I've got, I'm writing 2 books this year. So the meetings I construct on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning for a quality of life perspective. I normally don't book anything on Thursday and Fridays unless they're amazing interviews with somebody like you. And so the rest of the week, I like to do sports and I like to be active. That being said, I think when you learn how to run a business, and for those that know the cash flow quadrants with Robert Kiyosaki, a big part of my life today, Jason, is getting people from the left side to the right side so they can get time freedom. And most people were not taught that in school. I've been pretty good at doing it. So I help people become more entrepreneurial, scale their businesses, purchase businesses, buy cash flowing assets, and become good investors. And not that I'm a business advisor with that, but I know so many people, we talked about it offline about network, that are really good with cryptocurrency, or are really good in the stock market, or are really good with commercial real estate. So I introduced them the same way I was introduced to a mentor in real estate, Wayne Jordan, Jason. And then I let that person shadow that person in the vehicle of their choice while I help them with their mindset on a day-to-day basis, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, so is your main vehicle for that the M1 Mastermind, or is there some other vehicle that you use for that?
I've created many masterminds, several of them. Some of them I've sold, some of them I've trained other people how to run masterminds. But the concept is simply this: is find a group of like-minded people that share common values. In our case, it's this concept of the whole life millionaire. Is can you be financially free time-wise, where you have passive income coming in, so you don't have to work if you don't want to, maybe 20 or 30 or 40,000 a month coming in from real estate. Or as an example, my Keller Williams, I spend 93 minutes a month operating that, and I make about $25,000 a month from it. So I've got it down to 93 minutes because just the way that I've leveraged a team, and they know that I highly value time. And so we've committed to going over what we need to go over during that period of time. And so imagine if you have 4 or 5 businesses like that a lot of people in my world do. You're making 100,000 a month. You're working 4 hours a month. Of course, you're doing other things. You're looking at the stock market and you're learning and stuff like that. But it can be done. And so the whole life millionaire is creating that cash flow and learning how to do that, which is not taught in school. Having time to take care of your physical body and fall back in love with your body. And I don't know if you've ever been asked this, Jason, but I ask people that I coach, is there ever a time that you didn't want to change anything in your body? I'll ask you that question.
That's a great question. And I don't remember if that ever has been the case.
Right. So 99.9% of people are like, if they're honest, they're like, no, I always wanted to lose 5 pounds. I wanted to get a 6-pack. I wish my hair was shorter, longer. I wish my nose was smaller, bigger. I wish my ears were, well, whatever. There's always something that they look at, and society has taught us that we need to change it so they can sell us something. So I help people fall back in love with their bodies. And it's crucially important for women, because the more attractive a woman feels about herself, the more attractive she is to her spouse. Imagine if your spouse, your woman, stops saying, oh, I wish I was 5 pounds lighter. Oh, I wish, how do I look in this? What if she said, baby, what do you think about these pants? I'm feeling pretty hot, feeling pretty frisky. So this whole life millionaire concept is win the money game, win the body game, and of course, win the communication and relationship game by overcoming, the crap that happened to you as a child. And it doesn't have to be that you grew up, in a concentration camp. It could be that, like Tom Brady, he had 3 sisters, older sisters, and so he had nobody to play football with. So he went to play football with the kids on the street, and they would say, go long, and then they would never throw him the ball. And so he felt like he didn't belong. He felt like he didn't matter. So he drank a whole cup of, I'm going to show you motherfuckers. And that drove him on some level to be competitive and to have a work ethic. So trauma doesn't have to be that you were raped. It can just be that you didn't belong somewhere.
Yeah, I had not heard that story about Tom Brady, but I really appreciate that perspective, because so many entrepreneurs, especially people who listen to shows like mine, like yours, is they deal with that. I don't know what to do. They're on the early side of the entrepreneurial journey. They're figuring out what to do, and they don't know what they're prepared to be successful at, which is one of the keys to success, is that preparation. What have you used that 10,000 hour earlier comment where Malcolm Gladwell talked about that in Outliers. What is that 10,000 hours you've done? Well, most people, I find as a coach, and I know you find it too, because you just talked about it, is they don't know what that is. And when a coach or some advisor or mentor or counselor helps them uncover that, it's like the whole world changes. They see, oh, I can do this. And I wish there was a magic pill that I could give people to open their eyes to see those things. And it doesn't exist. And it's very difficult. I know that when I exited daily operations of one of the businesses that I own, it was the thing I had been doing for so long. I went through an identity crisis. I don't introduce myself as the president and CEO of this company anymore. Well, who the hell am I? How do I introduce myself? And it took me a while, and coaches helped me figure that out. So I love that part of your story. So let me ask you a couple of more kind of very specific questions. The name of the show is The Root of All Success. And when I started this show, I started recording the show in 2020. I wanted to discover people like you for my listeners, because I'd not heard of you until my network led me to you. But that doesn't mean anything. Just because we don't know each other has no bearing on whether we're both successful or not, or lack thereof. But you are very successful. You've been very successful, and you've just illustrated that in some of your stories. To you, what does the word success mean? What do you think that word means?
It's such a great question. And at the same time, I think there's answers for different stages of your life. When I was a teenager, it was getting laid. That was success.
Listen, could you at least try to be honest with us today, Rock? I feel like you're holding back.
When I was in my 20s, it was having a cool car. So it evolved over time. In my 30s, it was being a cool dad, being a dad that, coached my son's hockey and was home with my family as much as possible. But today, I think I give you one of my favorite definitions for that is doing the least amount of things that you dislike.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Doing
so
the
many
least
people,
amount of things.
Yeah. So many people live in a wish world. I wish I didn't have to take this call. I wish I didn't have that meeting. I wish that I, was on the beach. I wish. And I've created an affirmation that I don't wish for anything to be different, but for me to appreciate how I've contributed to this moment. And if it's successful, to celebrate it. And if it's a learning opportunity, to get ready to expand my identity by being committed to growth, by being curious. And I say that every day. How can I appreciate? Because ultimately, I contributed to us having this meeting by knowing Anthony and by adding value to his life on some level. And then we connected, correct?
That's right.
And if I want to be on Tony Robbins' podcast and I'm unable to, then I throw myself into curiosity and I go, how have I contributed to the lack of the contact? What can I do? What can I learn from this? Who can I ask, et cetera? So it's either winning or learning that I choose to live my life through when I'm in my higher self. Now I can be my lower self, play a victim like anybody else. I try to keep that to a minimum.
So with that in mind, that is a background for the definition of success, according to Rock Thomas. Do you consider yourself a successful person?
Again, always striving to do more. I think like anybody else, if I'm honest, I battle the inner narrative of shoulda, woulda, coulda. And on podcasts, I don't know if you asked this question or you've been asked it, is, do you have any regrets? And people are like, no, I lived my life exactly the way I wanted to. I think what they're saying is that I can't change it, so I might as well accept it. But do I have regrets? Do I wonder, I bought a Tesla 2 years ago. I paid cash $110,000. Had I bought the Tesla stock, it would be worth $2 million today. So do I have the thought float up once in a while when I'm in my car, when I look at the stock valuation and go, God, I should have done that. Yes, I have that. And so in that moment, I'm not in joy or happiness. So, but overall, am I a success? I would say yes, because I also rate my success on how many lives I get to add value to. And I think I do a really good job in that area in what I'm good at. And so I've created over hundreds and hundreds of millionaires, actually. And indirectly, I did a calculation since I started masterminds 8 years ago. And it's a rough calculation, but I've increased people's net worth in my global sphere by $5 trillion.
Wow. That's impressive, Ron. Very impressive.
Sorry, it's not 5 trillion, 5 billion. That's getting a little carried away. 5 billion. And I'll give you an example. Like there's one guy who was a mortgage broker. He got into our tribe 7 years ago, and now he owns 240 homes. Didn't own one home except his own very own home. But when he understood that you don't wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait, he got really feverish about it. And then he went out, and his children now are buying properties. So the increase in net worth, just of that one individual, and then the ricochet effect in his family, we've got thousands of people like that.
Wow. Well, that's impressive. That's very impressive. I want to do just a quick note to the listeners. We're doing this by Zoom, obviously, and we're running into some glitch in the internet world. So my apologies for if it's breaking up on the recording. There's nothing really we can do about it. We're doing our best, but I hope that you're still hearing the message that Rock is delivering here. So Rock, let me ask you a follow-up question to that. So I've got this theory, which is really, this kind of goes to the heart of why I started this show. I've got this theory that there are these 5 keys to entrepreneurial success. And the theory is based on dozens and dozens of conversations I had with very successful entrepreneurs before I even started this show. And I would sit down with people like you, and we'd, have a glass of bourbon, smoke a cigar, have a steak dinner. How did you become successful? How did you build that big business? And I just started asking questions, general, honest curiosity. And what I discovered was that there are these 5 things that popped up in every single person's story. Now, they use different language to describe those things, but in my brain, as a former pastor and teacher, I was listening for those things like, okay, these are the themes. So I would like to, with your permission, to kind of run through this theory with you, and you can agree or disagree and tell me where this fit into your story of success, because you're a very successful dude. So let me talk about this. Number one, what I found is that the number one key to success is for entrepreneurs is passion. And I'm going to give you a chance to respond to this. But what most people think when I say that, they think, okay, I can only be successful if I'm passionate emotionally about the thing that I'm doing, meaning I love it, I like it, that type of thing. And that's not what I mean when I use the word passion, because the word passion, if you go back and look at the etymology of the word, where it comes from, it actually means willingness to endure for a cause. So I use this example a lot on the show. So the passion of the Christ that we hear people talk about, it wasn't that he was excited emotionally to go to the cross that last week of his life. It was that he was willing to endure for a greater cause, which is why we call it the passion of the Christ. That makes sense. So in your story of success, Rock, where did, if at all, passion and the way that I describe it play into your ability to be successful?
Right at the top of the list, without a doubt. And I haven't looked up the word, I don't think, but I always said, passion is the ability to overcome obstacles.
Yeah.
And so people are like, my brain, when I start a project, my brain doesn't go, will this work? My brain is, it will work. I don't know the obstacles and I don't really care. I'll just overcome each one of them one at a time, because I have like Napoleon Hill, a chief definite aim to accomplish something, whatever that is. So it could be, learning how to play pickleball that I'm learning now, or get better at darts, or learn how to be a better public speaker, tell a story better. It doesn't matter. But I think being obsessed is another great word. And if you look at Kobe Bryant and Tom Brady, and maybe a lot of other people, they subscribe to the belief that talent can be outworked. And so you can be kind of average or decent, but if you're passionate and obsessed and you keep at it, eventually that stacks up and you get better than the guy who's talented that isn't as hungry for the long-term effect. So I always play the long game. Mike Keller Williams is now, I have it for 8 years. I finally, a year ago, got it to the point where it's on cruise control. It took me 7 years, but I never, ever doubted I would get it there. Thought it would take me a year, but it didn't,
All right. So I love that. I love that perspective on passion. And I'm glad that you reiterated that point. So let me tell you about the second key to success that I found, and that is being at the right place at the right time. And by the way, all of these keys start with P, so they're easy to remember: passion and place. So place being the second one. Here's what I mean by that. I really find that most entrepreneurs have some sort of place they can point to, place in time, that had that not occurred, it wouldn't have made them who they are today. They wouldn't have been who they are today. And it's not a matter of luck. That's not what I'm insinuating. It's not that. I think we make our own luck. The harder we work, the luckier we get. But listening to your story, and I'm looking at my notes I took as you were talking about, you grew up where your parents were in the war. There was a scarcity mentality. You grew up as a problem solver out of necessity. The way I see it is that kind of was your place in time. If you'd have grown up in a different era, different time, the war wasn't an issue, scarcity wasn't a problem, maybe or maybe not, you might not have been the successful person that you are today. What is your perspective on right place, right time for success?
Well, I'll answer that with a little story. I believe that how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you pay the price to practice in private, you'll perform like a pro in public. There's a lot of P's for you.
There you go.
Right? And so, this grocery store that I go to, there's these kids that pack the bags at the end that, you get your groceries. And I'm a big observer, always watching. And I watch these two different kids, and they were completely different. One was always talking to me and, awkward with where he put things. I'm like, no, you don't put, the bananas, milk on top of the bananas. And I kind of help him. Oh, sorry. But very slow and always talking to people. The other guy, when we would get him, he was like hyper mode, packing it, had a plan, had a vision. He'd be looking around. He would be thinking in advance. And then as soon as we were finished, may I help you out to bring your bags out to the car, sir? And he was always adding value, and he was looking for ways to be of service. So I decided to ask him what was going on. He says, that guy over there, the other guy, he goes, I'm always in competition with him, but he doesn't know it. I'm trying to pack faster than anybody so I could be the best at this job. And then I always ask people if I can bring the bags out to the car, and about 2 to 3 out of 10 say yes. And I get a little bit of a tip, and I save that money. I plan on buying a piece of real estate. I go, how old are you? He goes, I'm 19. And so that story to me answers your question, being in the right place at the right time. I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying. I'm saying you need to be the right person in the right place. And when you are, opportunity comes to you. You seize it. Opportunity is around people all the time, but they're asleep, right? Part of my job is to wake people the fuck up, right? That's why my next event's called Awaken. People are asleep and the opportunities are passing them by. I bought Doge at 0.003 cents. I made a 10,000% return. It went from $3,000 to over 300,000. Not because I'm so great, because I was paying attention to people that are way smarter than me.
I love it. So you preempted key number 3, which is knowing the right people. Okay. So here's my explanation for that. So you got passion, being in the right place, the right time, but also knowing the right people. So I think that if I look back at your story, your dad giving you that work ethic, you got to work hard. And I think you and I both know that if hard work just led you to be a millionaire, the ditch diggers among us would be millionaires. And so it's not just hard work, but knowing the right people. So is there a person or persons in your life, whether negative or positive influences, who pushed you and helped you become the successful person you are today?
Yeah, 1,000%. My older brothers used to bully me and beat me up and chase me, which led me to become a really good football player because nobody could catch me. I remember running out in the farm fields and dodging and cutting and turning and climbing. And so that villain, if you will, gave me a skill set that served me in another arena, literally. But I would say that Wayne Jordan, who I told you about, that I met in my 29 or 30 years old, he wore a 3-piece suit. He had a really nice Mercedes. He had a beautiful wife. He had 3 beautiful children. And he represented to me the father that I didn't have. And so I admired and respected him. He was an accountant that was a businessman. And he had a lot of certainty. He was articulate. And he played golf, and he taught me how to play golf. He was, like, to me, a well-rounded human. And so I just soaked up everything. And so the right people that you can model and mentor and that hold you accountable. And I'll give you a nuance on that, is I think that a lot of people take courses. They take a course on, let's say, how to invest in real estate. They pay Robert Kiyosaki $40,000. Then they go out and they hit their first stumbling block. And without a mentor, they freeze. They don't know what to do. And so if you really want to be successful, and this is why I started my masterminds, is you need to have somebody that every time you have doubt or fear or worry or a new situation, you can grab the person's ear and then you can move through that. And that's what Wayne did for me. Every day I had a challenge. They said no to me here. He goes, okay, well, here's what you say. Go back and try that. And that is exciting because you grow a little bit every day and you don't feel alone. And so the right people, yes, is absolutely crucial. And I have a follow-up answer for that, but I'll say it.
Well, let me ask you about negative influences. I can look back into my life and look at some people that, I once may have considered friends, or maybe they never were friends, but they were antagonists in my life. But had they not been there, man, I would not be who I am today. So do you agree that it can not only people like Wayne, who are so positive as influential to you, but also they can be the negative, Tom Brady's friends who are not friends to him, your brothers who are bullying you, they're negative influence. Do you agree that that's just as powerful as the positive influence?
I think a firmly installed chip on the shoulder adds a lot of value to motivation. And this desire we have to prove comes from the wish to belong. We all want to belong. We all want people to like us. We all want to fit in. Because if that doesn't happen, our basic instinct of survival says, well, if I don't fit in and I don't belong, then maybe they're going to kill me. Or maybe I'll starve. Maybe I won't get a job. So it's really deep down guttural instinct is we want to belong. So when you have a bunch of people that are with you, supporting you and challenging you, it's great. It's the carrot. That's good. But man, when you've got like the best man at my second wedding, turned out he had a drug problem and he ended up stealing some money from me and then leaving my company and opening up the competition, literally across the street. And I was like, what? How do you do that? Like, and this is a guy who I paid off his back taxes. I bought him a car but I had a pattern, honestly, Jason, of buying love. I didn't know what genuine love was growing up the way I grew up. And I spent a big part of my life, trying to buy my friends. So I had make money. And then, and anytime they're like, can we borrow some, whatever? Yeah. Until I started to see the pattern that as soon as the borrowing happened, there was never any paying back. And that was where I had to take responsibility. I thought I blamed them at first, that schmuck, And I said, okay, after it happening over and over again, I realized that it was on me. But I still today, I have a few enterprises that are driven partially from proving, for sure. Even my Keller Williams. There's a few competitors in the area that we don't see eye to eye. I tried to align with them and they chose a different route. They aligned with a couple of other people in the area. I'm like, okay, that's the way you want it. I'm still number one with or without them.
Well, so let me, I want to take an aside here too, based on a comment you made about knowing the right people. And you were talking about the need for a mentor. So before I go to the fourth key to success, I want to talk about that for a second, because I think that's a lot of listeners to the show need to hear that. You just articulately explain what a mentor does. You can go take the course, you can get the information. If information were power, we'd all be powerful, because Google, internet, we got all the info available. It's not the information, it's that mentorship, it's the coach, it's the consultant that will, as you said, pull you by the back of your hair and push you back in line, that get you. That's why coaches are so important. And I know that sounds self-serving because you and I are both coaches. That's what we do. And it sounds like that's what we're just trying to promote our own industry. But the reality is, I wouldn't be who I am without my coaches. I'm going to guess that you wouldn't be who you are without your coaches. And if people want to be successful, you got to spend the money to hire that coach. You got to do it. It's an investment in yourself. So I appreciate you saying that very much, because I so believe that is so true. I didn't become a millionaire until after I hired a coach. That's when life changed for me. That's what happened. You do?
People don't realize that investing in yourself is the greatest form of investment you can do. And there are thousands of examples. Russell Wilson, quarterback for Seattle, he spends $1 million a year on the guy who works him out and cooks for him. $1 million a year. Tom Brady has multiple coaches. Tiger Woods worked with the same caddy for, I think, 12 years, and they got so close together that the caddy, knowing how Tiger was feeling in his mood that day, would give him false numbers. It was maybe 90 yards to the pin. He would tell him 82 because he knew he was jacked up. He was a little bit hyper. He was pissed off on the last shot, and he would adapt it to that. And so if you're playing on your own, you cannot see your blind spots. You can't even notice that because you're in it. And so I have coaches for everything, anything I do, swimming, pickleball, tennis, golf. I have coaches all the time. I spend tons of money looking for the hack, the nuance, the shortcut, and how to get above average rapidly. But I've just decided that at least 10% of what I earn goes to getting better.
Yeah.
And life is so short. Why do you want to take the longest route to become the best version of yourself, which is through trial and error, when you can have somebody who spent a lifetime on whatever it is, how to do a great podcast, and then learn that and then shorten the curve?
Yeah,
But you
you're
have
gonna spend the money doing what it is anyway. A coach just accelerates it. So you might spend $75,000 on a coach this year, but accelerate your timeline to 6 months or a year. Where if you didn't hire the coach, save the 75 grand, it might take you 4 years to accomplish the same thing. Well, wouldn't you have rather done it? I mean, you're going to spend the money one way or the other. So thank you for that. Thank you for that permission to do that.
Jason,
aside.
a follow-up to that, the reason people don't is, one is there are some bad coaches out there. And so they doubt whether they're going to get their money's worth. And the second thing that I always try to answer for the individual, because they're saying, like, let's say they hire you as a coach and you're going to teach them, to get an X result. Their brain has to go, I believe I have the work ethic, I have the curiosity, I have the willingness to make mistakes and the passion to follow through, the willingness to knock on doors. And a lot of people, they doubt themselves. So hiring a coach doesn't change doubt within themselves if that's deeply embedded.
Yeah. If you are not successful in something, it's because you either have lack of trust or lack of discipline. And what you just explained is lack of trust in the coach and lack of discipline in yourself to follow through.
Ooh,
that is good.
That's a good one.
Well, so the last two keys of success that I found, and we already mentioned this early. As a matter of fact, it was the first one I mentioned prior to me doing this line of questioning for you is that of preparation. And you talked about that 10,000 hours and being prepared and how your life prepared you late in life to become very successful in the entrepreneur real estate game, or the real estate entrepreneurial game. And then furthermore, coaching, authoring, speaking, et cetera. So preparation for me to look at your story absolutely is one of the keys. You were prepared in a unique way to accomplish what you've accomplished. But I want to give you the opportunity to respond to that, to say whether you agree that preparation was a key, having to know how to pull off what you're doing now, or not.
1,000%, because once you get it embedded deep inside of you, then you can play with it, right? You can be artistic with it. I do a thing called the Rise with Rock every Wednesday morning for 5 years. It's about a 10-minute little live on Facebook to my mastermind group. And I just have a concept or a thought or something that I share with them with a little story and a call to action. And sometimes when I go on vacation, I have somebody else do it. And they're like, I don't know, I'm nervous. And they go, how much time do you take to prepare for that, Rock? Like, it so well, you probably just get up in the morning and decide, boom. And I go, actually, probably for that 10 minutes, 3 hours. I practice, I rehearse, I tell the story to myself, I look up quotes, I see what connects, I practice, rehearse, and I've been doing this for 30 years of personal development. Maybe I read a book and then I reread the page and then I string it together. And it's like, people don't realize that, like Tom Brady, he spent 3 days with Peyton Manning on their own, just running patterns and telling each other the little tricks they have so iron could sharpen iron, it could get a little bit better. Like, they think he probably takes 5 months off in the off season and goes fishing or golfing. He's constantly honing year after year. That's why at 44, he is who he is, because the 10,000 hours was never ending for him. So yes, prepare, practice, plan, review, get feedback, all of those things.
Well, the last key to success is plan. And what I found in interviewing a lot of people like you is that everybody started off with various versions of plan, whether it's I'm shooting from the hip, flying by the seat of my pants, and then the plan will come, or they're very meticulous, write a business plan. But that's not necessarily what I mean by plan, although that plays into it. What I mean is the plan refers to the financial resources required to execute your thing. So for instance, if you want to go into the short-term rental market and that's going to be your thing, which happens to be my 22 goal, that's what I'm trying to get into. So if anybody listening, you're in the short-term rental space, that's what I'm trying to get into big this year. So you can help me out. But if I'm going to go into that, I got to have a plan to deploy capital into that. And I can't just go, okay, I'll buy this $1.5 million cabin in the mountains. Okay, you got 100% financing? How does that go? Now, I'll take that. I'll leverage all day long, but that's probably not likely. I have to have a plan to do it. So in your story of entrepreneurship and how you were able to start and run and sell successful real estate franchises and then start your masterminds, how did plan play into your ability to become successful?
Well, I grew up with a very frugal upbringing. And so I, for many years, was able to, when I made a lot of money, $300,000-$400,000, 25 years ago, I was living off of 50,000. And so I was stocking money away. In fact, it's the reason that Wayne Jordan sold me the Remax franchise at the time. Is he walked into my office. He says, "I want to sell you the company." I didn't know at the time that he had cancer. So I didn't know that he was motivated. I was flattered, but I said, "Why me?" He goes, "You're the only person in the office that manages your money well." I used to prepay my bill 6 months in advance, so I had no pressure when I was sitting face to face with a client thinking I need this to pay my bills. And so I took that out and became more authentic as a salesperson. It was about serving. And that's actually what made the pressure go away and people feel comfortable. So I, from a very young age, had money to invest in things. Sadly, until I was about 50 years old, which is 9 years ago, I took all the money I made and I poured it into really shitty investments other than the real estate office that I bought in the building. I invested in a gold mine in Australia. I invested in the stock market with no coaching at all and lost $1 million there a few times. And so it was only over time that I became much better at investing my money. But back to your people is, if you know the right people, when I bought this house, I mean, currently I needed $3 million in 7 days, and I was able to make one phone call and get it cash, boom. And so over time, you build your network and then you have more opportunities. And today I have, people that are really good at commercial real estate investments. I just write them a check. I don't have to do anything. And, we get 30, 40, 50% returns annually. And it's great. But that took me a long time, Jason, to build that network up so that I could move from, it's like people say flipping properties is passive. No, it's not. It's very active. So what is passive? Passive is when you don't have to keep an eye on it because the person that's keeping an eye on it for you is so good, is so passionate and obsessed that you can relax and you can go do something else.
So tell me about your top 10 rules of success. I think that's kind of a way to tie all this conversation up to a bow, because we just talked about what I perceive as the 5 keys to success, but you've got these 10 rules of success that you've trained on this. You've written a book about this. Tell me a little bit about what that is to you.
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of similarities. So I call them rules because if you break the rules, then you slow your progress towards success. So first one is 30 minutes a day of personal development. You got to infuse yourself with something that inspires, motivates you, keeps the desire alive. Let's face it, we live in a negative world. So, but if you have 30 minutes of consistently something that energizes you, gives you life, then you're going to do well. I think most successful people do a lot more than that, but it's at least a baseline. Number 2 is goal setting, a 5-step process for setting goals where you ignite the carrot and the stick. And so there's a process I teach there. Rule number 3 is all about the 2 things. Is you talked about it before. Mark Twain, I think, said it, is that 2 most important days in your life are when you're born and when you discover why. And so we put people through a process where they learn what their gifts are. And I should introduce you to a guy named Mike, who's a CPA turned Airbnb guy, who can help you with your short rental experience if you want.
Love it.
He now teaches people how to do it. He retired himself, his wife, and his mom because he took a course that we have, and he discovered that one of the talents he has is teaching. And so he went from learning how to do Airbnb to teaching it. And now he has 2 boutique hotels, 48 doors, and he's really, really good at helping people become short-term rental experts. The flip side of that coin is you got to develop your skills, and skills are something you're not born with. So people think that leadership, you're either a leader or you're not. No, it's a skill. Sales is a skill. Learning how to use your apps on your phone is a skill. So you got to put time and effort into that. Number 4 is all about motivation, understanding what we call your hot buttons. Are you motivated more, Jason, by somebody saying, hey, good job? Or are you motivated more by somebody saying you'll never succeed? Because I grew up with brothers that bullied me. I've won multiple push-up contests because I have people around me saying, you'll never make it. You can't do it. he's gonna die. He can't get another 10 in. And I'm going, I'm hearing my brother's voice saying, you loser, right? And it activates something that gives me life. So my good friends know when we're on the same team, they don't go, come on, man, keep it going, Rock. They say, Rock's gonna pass out, man. He's done. He can't do it. And then a fire ignites in me. So knowing your hot buttons and who you are to accelerate yourself is number 4. Number 5 is all about focus. Number 6 is all about beliefs. If you don't know what your limiting beliefs are, how can you improve them? I was just introduced to somebody yesterday and they had a little girl, 4 years old. And I go, who's this? And he goes, oh, that's Julie, but she's shy. She won't say anything. So people are told what they are at a very young age. That creates the limitation, and they grow up thinking they're shy their entire life.
Yeah.
Enter into a room and meet Jason or Rock, and we can hold up a mirror and we can say, is it really true you're shy? Or is it just a story that was told to you that you've been repeating over and over again? Just the same way my CPA, Mike, thought he was a numbers guy, but he's really a teacher. And so we dig into the beliefs and find out what's limiting, what's holding you back. All successful people I know that are time-free focus on their net worth. They increase their net worth. They accumulate assets. So number 7 is about that. Number 8 is about your morning routine and your evening routine. I'm a big believer that it's very popular, the morning routine, and people neglect the evening routine, which is to reflect on how you showed up in your life. And I have questions that I teach people in that area. Number 9 is nothing has meaning but the meaning you give it. I was watching the Tom Brady special, and he talked about the fact that, you can't change things, but you can change the way you look at them. And so he goes, I don't waste any energy in regret. He goes, I focus my energy on empowering myself for the next play. So I don't blame my receivers that they didn't catch the ball. I don't blame them that they ran the wrong play. I focus forward and create a new meaning of empowerment. And so my favorite question is, what's great about this? Anytime something happens, you ask yourself, what's great about this? I just found out this morning that one of my key employees is handing in the resignation. In the past, I would be pissed off, concerned, anxious, worried, etc. Instead, first thing is, what's great about this? Well, somebody great is going to come along to replace that person. They got what they needed working with me, and it's time for them to move on and open their own company. That's awesome. And so I don't want to spend time being down based on something I can't control. So I ask a better question that brings me into an empowered state. And number 10 is all about, I guess you could call it passion, is that belief. It's called make it happen no matter what. And it's that deep embedded belief that all winners have, all successful people have, is that all obstacles are temporary and they're designed for me to grow. And so let's get at it. Let's attack them and let's go and win.
I love that you couch this around the word rules. I use the word keys, 5 keys of success, because I believe those keys can unlock the door, and anybody who possesses the keys, they can unlock it. You've got rules, which means if you break the rules, you suffer the consequences. So I love that you couch it that way. And I'm going to repeat these. I took notes. I want to make sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think these are what you said. Number 1, 30 minutes a day on personal development. Number 2, goal setting. Number 3, discover your gifts and talents and develop those skills. Number 4, understand your hot buttons. Number 5, focus, practice focus. Number 6, understand your limiting beliefs. 7, accumulate assets because it's about your net worth. Number 8, your morning and evening routines. Number 9, nothing has meaning except the meaning you give it. And then number 10, make it happen no matter what. Is that right?
You are an excellent student, Jason.
Well, that's good. Well, this is good stuff. I mean, when you got good content, it's easy to be a good student. So thank you for sharing that. Now, final question of the day for the listeners and for me to ask you is, on this, the listeners to this show span the gamut of everything entrepreneurship. You got people that are still W-2 employees. They haven't left a job yet. They have an aspiration. You got other people that that are way on the, the high end of very, very successful 6 and 8, 9 figure entrepreneurs. I said 6, 7, 8, 9 figure entrepreneurs. You've got really a big gamut of people. I want you to think about the early side. Let's think about the early side for a minute. I want you to speak to that person. What is your one piece of advice that you would say to that person? What should they do? What mindset should they have? What's your one piece of advice to that person in the early stage of entrepreneurship?
Find a mentor, somebody that's getting the result that you want, and then go and serve that person. Ask them if you can bring them coffee, wash their car, pick up their dry cleaning, just to hang out with them, shadow them, follow them, watch them, listen to them, be incredibly curious. I have a young man that moved out here from the East Coast just to be around me. Him and his wife came out, and they literally moved down the street, and they just wanted to do whatever they could. They both work for us now. This is within a 6-week period. They just came and moved couches, painted, anything. This is, what do you need to be done? And after a while, you start to depend on them. The biggest problem successful people have is finding talent. So if you're talent and you're willing to work, just put yourself into the job and work for free. And eventually they'll go, let's hire this person.
I love that. So find a mentor, get around people that are going to help you. And that goes back to the third key on the 5 keys of success, is knowing the right people. You got to get around the right people. So Rock, thank you for being that person for so many people in your life. You've hundreds of people that you've helped become whole life millionaires to change their lives. So I admire you. I admire you for what you've done, for what you stand for, how you're helping people change their lives. So thank you for being here today and being transparent, honest, and sharing your story. How would people reach out and get in touch with you? What's the best way for people to contact you?
Well, all those 10 rules are in my book, Your Epic Life Blueprint. There's 10 chapters and there's 10 rules. So if they want to get a copy of that book, they can go to rockthomas.com/free book. And it's a bit of a misnomer because they got to pay for the shipping, but it's also on Audible if they want to listen to it. I think that's a great place to start. They can go to rockthomas.com and check out my website. Of course, I got my podcast, Rock Your Money, Rock Your Life, that they can find, and YouTube channel. They can get tons of free stuff, or they can go all the way to, some personal coaching. It just depends on what works for them. But of course, social media today, there's tons of information out there.
So go to rockthomas.com/free book to get your free book, and then check out the Rock Your Money, Rock Your Life podcast with Rock. Make sure you subscribe to podcasts. His number one rule is 30 minutes a day in personal development. And I don't know what he thinks about this. I would imagine he would agree with me, but listening to a podcast could be part of that 30 minutes of personal development. Don't you agree, Rock?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So you got to listen to it. So thank you guys for listening today. Rock, thank you for being here. What an honor to talk to you. I look forward to being connected with you more in the future. I think we need to do some stuff together. I'm impressed. I really honestly am. We need to talk. So thanks for being on the show. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Yet another amazingly successful entrepreneur who unlocked the door to success with the keys I talk about on this show of passion, being in the right place at the right time, knowing the right people, being prepared and having a plan. Those keys can unlock your success as an entrepreneur as well. I want to make an offer to you. I run an Exit Accelerator live group coaching platform that runs for 12 weeks. And I take no more than 12 entrepreneurs at a time. And I've got one that's starting in a couple of weeks. If you're interested in being a part of that, I just want you to go to the website, exitwithoutexiting.com. I want you to check that out. And my gift to you is if you send me a DM through Instagram or LinkedIn that says, hey, I heard you on the show with Rock Thomas. I heard Rock Thomas on your show. You said you're going to give me a discount. I'll give you a $500 coupon code to get into that coaching program. And just so you know, I'll be very clear and transparent. That program normally costs $3,500 to be a part of it. It is the best investment you'll make in your entrepreneurial career this year. You need to do it. You're going to learn exactly what you'll walk away with. You'll learn exactly how to embrace delegation, how you truly delegate tasks out to other people in a successful way. You'll learn how to eliminate stress and deal with your business and your life in a way that's stress-free. You're going to learn how to establish systems and processes. And I'm going to teach you specifically a 3-part sales process that has helped other people sell countless millions of dollars worth of products and services that allowed them to step away from the daily operations of their business. And then finally, how to invest in people. How do you make sure that you're investing in them financially and mentally and emotionally in a way that they will run your company the way you would have run it if you were still there, but you're not there because you've exited without exiting and you're now living the exit lifestyle. That's what I want to help you do. That's why I do this show, to show you that other people are already doing it. Just like Rock, he's living the exit lifestyle. He owns several homes, as he talked about. He's making passive income that he doesn't have to work for. That's the exit lifestyle. And I can show you how to get there. So go to exitwithoutexiting.com, read about it, send me a DM, and I'll send you a code where you can get $500 off the next cohort session that starts here in just a couple of weeks. Well, tune in again next time when I talk with yet another amazingly successful entrepreneur about his or her keys and journey to success. Until then, remember, I'm the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we invite you to visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Take charge of your business. Grow it from great to incredible. Join us again next time here on The Root of All Success.